9 podcasts.
Welcome everyone to The Trade-Off, your daily podcast, trying to give you all the best and latest information of the day's action, I guess, from the AFL trade period. So we'll try our best to give you all of our insights. That's all for Tyre Powers. Great race sale. Buy 3 and get 1 free on selected Kumo, passenger car and SUV tyres. Well, every afternoon, I'm Jimmy Bartel. I'm joined by the Essendon legend, Matthew Lloyd. Afternoon, Lloydy.
Afternoon, Jimmy. Yeah, and it's like a bit of a slow day today, but it's all building towards, isn't it? It's a big negotiation building up towards Wednesday night.
Do you think it's AFL conspiracy theory at its best? There's some deals done and we'll just save them for the Wednesday rush?
Yeah, I have heard that and that's definitely happened. So you just wonder what the cutoff point is, Jimmy, where you can not announce a deal. So I reckon early to maybe lunchtime tomorrow, everyone has to hold off from Tuesday onwards.
Now, if you're going to tour some facilities, Lloydy, what's the first thing that you're looking for as Matthew Lloyd? You go in, they say this is your locker, you're looking for your locker, you're looking for the swimming pool, you're looking for the grass to throw in the air. What are you looking for?
That is a great question about what would get me over the line most in terms of that. I reckon I'd do a tour of where potentially I'd like to live and how long it takes to get to training and what traffic is like and all those sorts of things. But I didn't have a lot of Windy Hill, Jimmy. I was standing in green rubbish bins, often doing my hot colds back then. and the boys at North Melbourne would say we were spoiled having that. So times have certainly changed.
Yeah, we played in 3 consecutive grand finals using a shed for our weight room now that they parked the tractor at Geelong. So as they say, they all weigh the same, the weights. The only reason I raised that, Charlie Curnow has been reported. He's toured the Swans facilities today. He's been mentioned as clearly he'd love to get to Geelong, but the difficulty of the Geelong getting the deal, he's opened his mind to playing for the Sydney Swans.
And it's exciting. Like, I think something of Sydney Swans. I was approached early days when I was about 21 about when Tony Lockett was retiring and about coming up to Sydney and being someone to come and help promote football in Sydney. And I know that how great Lockett was, Barry Hall. I remember how big it was when Kurt Tippett went across. It was a big deal. So it's something that they've always liked, having those
big
players, big Warwick Kappa in the early days as well. Yeah, so I think it'd be amazing for football in Sydney, I reckon. I know it's Heaney, and these guys are stars, but big loss for Carlton, but it'd be massive for Sydney if they could land him.
This is per Cal to me. I've just spoken to Matt Bain, the manager of James Rowbottom. He said James is going nowhere. He's staying at Sydney. He has passed that on to the clubs today. James has appreciated the interest of clubs, but is staying put. The reason why I raise James Rowbottom, or paddle bum there, is the fact that you've got to give something to get something. And it seems like this trade period, every player is off the table. No one's going anywhere. And everyone wants to throw picks, but no one wants the picks in this year's draft.
And also, I just think in this situation, he's not what Carlton would want either. So it might be that James didn't want to go, but also might be that Carlton don't want him either. So I think those big-bodied mids, clearance-type players, it's what they've got, with Cripps and George Hewitt and the like. So I think they need those bouncy, running type of players. So I don't think he would have suited Carlton anyway.
Will Hayward, the dynamic forward there, he's sort of in an awkward matchup, Will Hayward. He can be a bit tall for some and a bit nimble for others. He has been reported as well today. At least he's open-minded. I'm not saying anything negative against James Rowbottom there, but Hayward's open-minded that if he's to be bundled up in a deal that he'd at least consider it.
And that's the type of player. He's so versatile. You can't have too many Will Haywards. So, if you've got a Harry Mackay, you've got Will Hayward, you've got Ainsworth at the feet, plus the other smalls. Well, suddenly there's a different mix to what they've had at Carlton. So, I think if you got pick 10, which is Sydney's first choice, Will Hayward, then what the next part comes, you're getting a bit closer to potentially satisfying Carlton.
Yeah, a bit more creativity and lots more different things you could do with that forward midfield mix. So for just finally on the Blues, 2 players and a pick, a player and a couple of picks, the ideal setup, probably 2 players and a pick.
Yeah, I'd be open to. I suppose they got to weigh up where they're at. Like, because 2 years ago they went playing a prelim, then they can't make the 8. Like, they've got to ask themselves, where are we at as a club? If you feel you're a fair way off, and you're not a finals team next year, well, you might be taking the better picks. But if they're good quality players, like I'm taking players first who can play at the level.
Picks are always interesting for Carlton as well because young Harry Dean's coming in and they've got Cody Walker next year. So they could get a nice little mix, Carlton, again, if it really suits what they need to do. A trade has been done. Will Brodie will land at the Port Adelaide Football Club, his third football club. Of course, he has that relationship with Josh Carr. And the incredible pick of pick 103 to Fremantle. Now, on draft night, that pick 103 will come into pick 60, but that'll likely be passed on. So what it does for Freo, it obviously creates a list spot and then frees up some cap space. And Port Adelaide get a guy who probably 2 years ago was well and truly entrenched in the midfield, now found himself on the outer.
Yeah, it's tough for guys like him who they're not blessed with speed. So he had an unbelievable season 1 year at Fremantle, but then you can't have too many of them in the one midfield, so you get squeezed out, and that's what's been the case with Brodie, and hopefully he can get some chances at Port Adelaide.
The other deal that's been done across the weekend and early Monday period, the Western Bulldogs trade round 1 pick 12 to the Giants for pick 14 and round 2 pick 37 in the 25 draft. So the Giants move up 2 spots and they give pick 37 over to the Dogs, which a lot of people will think that'll go on to get the Connor Budrick deal done. So those two played nicely in the sandpit for once, the Dogs and the Giants. And big news out of the Lions, not necessarily a trade, but Will Ashcroft is set to sign a 4-year contract extension, a well-earned contract extension, because he was coming out at the end of 26. So they've extended him out on a pretty chubby deal there. So locked away their dual Norm Smith medalist. Lloydy, we're going to play a different game for the talking point today. We'll go tick for tat here, and it's really simple. Stay or go. Just your gut feel on these players. Stay or go. Again, we've got a bit of time left in the trade period, so don't hold us accountable to them. It's as we sit. Use the journalist lingo there, Lloydy. We're in the media. We've got to use the journalist talk. As we sit here today, stay or go. So I'll fire the first one at you. Zach Merrett.
I've been 100% go that he will go and he'll end up at Hawthorn, but I'm starting to get a bit stay on that, just because I don't, and my mail is that Hawthorn haven't presented anything close enough for the Bombers to consider. So they'd want to change that soon.
Just on that, Cam McKenzie has been reported as Hawthorn not keen to deal him at all, and he was often a player linked in part of that deal.
Charlie Curnow?
Go. I think the fact that he realises, well, it's not definitely Geelong and he's open-minded to the Swans, it's still a 2-club race. The only reason to stay is, the Blues are very much like Zach Merrett and Essendon. It's got to be something incredibly appealing, but I still think that right at the moment, he's still going. Christian Petrarca.
He will go and he'll be a Gold Coast Sun player. It's just how much they give up. So I'm actually quite surprised. Was it 2 first rounds?
7 and 8.
7 and 8, and obviously they'll probably get something back in that. But that's a lot to be giving up for Christian Petrarca, unless what would they get back in that?
I think there was a pick coming. They're asking for a pick back their way, which has been in the 20s.
Yeah, so that's he'll play for the Suns, but that's a lot to be giving up. Clayton Oliver?
He'll go, and it just depends on how much Melbourne's willing to pay his wage is what they get in return. Obviously, the more they pay, the better pick they get, but otherwise it might be future picks involved there for Clayton Oliver, so I think he'll go. Big Rowan Marshall. This one keeps taking some twists and turns. This will be difficult for you to decide.
Yeah, I'll say stay. I think St Kilda seem like they want to keep him, and I'm not sure Geelong will satisfy well enough. I'm going to throw one that's not on the list here. Humphrey, where do you reckon Bailey Humphrey will end up?
I think he'll stay.
So, yeah.
I think Gold Coast have been pretty patient. They've allowed him to look around, but clearly you want Christian Petrarca to play with Bailey Humphrey and all that talent there as they push for an even better year next year. Jai Simpkin, I think we both agree he'll stay. I think his wage is difficult, and if that asking price was right over the weekend, 2 first rounders, no one is paying 2 first rounders for Jai Simpkin. Jamara Ugle-Hagan, you're pretty confident he ends up with the Gold Coast?
I think so. I think when it's a bit like Clayton Oliver, when your club would prefer that you weren't at the football club anymore. I think it would take a lot of pressure off the Western Bulldogs if he gets taken by the Suns. That's a win-win. Will
Hayward, he's pretty much tied to the Charlie Curnow one, so if one goes, the other one's highly likely to go. Jai Sarong, he's going. He's up to the Swans as well. Bugu Kamas is one that just really hasn't had much noise, but that's just still sitting idle.
Yeah, he fell out of favour at the Bulldogs. They've got it. I think he'd be good for Carlton. Carlton can't just keep expecting it's going to be weedering, and then they throw in different players at different stages to try, like Brodie Kemp types and Lewis Young types. That I think he'd be fantastic. Maybe even like North Melbourne, a club like that should look at Buku Kamas as well. Stephen May.
Yep. I think he's going to stay. I think when it first got floated out there, like, Stephen, do you want to explore your options? There wasn't exactly a lot of clubs jumping out of their skin to get him. And normally when you hear a player of his experience, premiership success, been all Australian multiple times, normally when those names come up, you quickly hear which clubs would like to, and that just wasn't that noise. So I think he ends up staying at Melbourne and trying to fight his way through and get himself back in favour of the new coach, Stephen King. Jack Steele.
Everything you just said about May, I think, is the same for Jack Steele. There's just been no real... I think he'd like to stay at St Kilda. There hasn't been the interest in him or taker, so he will stay a Saint as well.
Connor Budrick, we said, will likely land at the Bulldogs as a small back as they try to change their defence on the run. Jack Buller, the Swan, will probably end up there at Collingwood. Elijah Hollands is a fascinating one. Carlton said, go explore your options. I read his article with Pete Ryan. It didn't completely contradict what the noise coming out of Chris Davies and Carlton, but it sort of painted a different picture. Do you think Carlton take him back?
I think he ends up nowhere. So I think, unfortunately, unless he pleads a great case to them about why they should give him another shot, I think he may well reach a settlement with Carlton if they've lost trust in him.
You wonder if they drop him off the list and say that his lifeline's the rookie list. Yeah. You wonder if that is an option for him, or they might be all up for rookie spots. That's without knowledge of their list structure at the moment. Time for tough calls. Thanks to Grunt. No matter what you do with Grunt. There's nothing tougher available exclusively at Bunnings. As we head into the second last day of trade period, who needs to make a tough call? I'm going to lead the batting here, Lloydy. I want managers, reporters, everybody involved. There's always catchwords. It used to be war chest, used to be in it. The latest one is had their head turned. Yeah. The one I'm sick of, if we're playing trade week radio bingo where you got a drinking games and you'd be incredibly drunk, is he hasn't requested a trade. Yes. Can we just can that? Yeah. If someone's touring another club's facilities or they're catching up for dinner with the opposition coach, whether it be during season, out of season, that's him requesting a trade.
So the only reason they request one is when they know the deal's going to happen, isn't it? It's just to cover themselves, isn't it?
It's definitely a down payment, I guess, on rewriting history in the future. So when we are sitting up in our commentary box, we're nice and cosy, and we've got the player manager, we've got the football manager down there. We say, hey, Matthew Lloyd, he wanted out of your club. Hey, he never requested a trade. Yeah, but he did tour the facilities and he looked at Bondi Beach and he had a great go at trying to explode the club to get himself out. But no, he didn't request a trade.
Lecalier will be wishing he didn't request a trade, wouldn't he?
Correct.
Yeah. My one is Sam Mitchell. I think he's pretty ruthless and he's willing to do whatever is in the best interest of his club. But if you want a player of Zach Merrett's ilk, you've got to... It's like Wayne Swass and Shannon Grant. I remember that trade where
they both did well.
They both did well, and you go, well, okay, we want Shannon Grant. Well, okay, North, we're going to give Wayne Swass, and Swass is a superstar. So I think Hawthorn have to realise if you want Zach Merrett, you must part with one of your stars, and it's not a friendly, nice conversation. Alistair Clarkson had to go to Luke Hodge and say, you know what, and he ends up at Brisbane. Jordan Lewis, you're gone. You're going to Melbourne. Sam Mitchell, you're going to the West Coast Eagles.
Yeah, so he should know that conversation.
Yeah, so he should know that, and I think he's got to, if he hasn't already, sit down with someone. I know Kevin Sheedy did it, and it broke his heart. Justin Blumfield, Chris Heffernan, Blake Carosella. We had salary cap problems, so that's probably the wrong example, but you do have to make tough calls, and I think Sam Mitchell has to make a brutal one on a star, and it might not be that they go to Essendon, but it's a three-way if they want to get Zach Merrett. So that's a tough call Mitchell needs to make.
I love that tough call, and we wonder if it'll come to, I guess, full toll as tomorrow when we sit down here tomorrow, Lloydy, and review all the action of the trade period, the 2025 trade period. It's certainly heading up, all thanks to Tyre Power. Great race sale, buy 3 and get 1 free on selected Kumho passenger car and SUV tyres. Thanks, Lloydy.
Thanks, Jimmy.